Hello, Namaskar. This is Firstpost and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. Exactly 31 days ago today, Israel was struck. Since then, they have bombed Gaza relentlessly. There are troops on the ground and over 10,000 civilian casualties. Israel is not done yet. They're planning the next stage of the offensive. This war, combined with the ongoing offensive in Ukraine, is now making Wall Street giants nervous. They're predicting a recession. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese met with Xi Jinping in China. He's on a state visit. They're celebrating a reset, even as the Chinese forces make rapid inroads in the Pacific. The deepfake of a famous actress is raising a question mark over the lack of laws to protect privacy in India. And the dangerous smog over the national capital region is disrupting the Cricket World Cup. Teams are calling off practice session. All this and more coming up. The headlines first. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi speaks to Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi. The two leaders discuss the war in West Asia. Both of them call for quote-unquote an early restoration of peace and stability. South Africa joins diplomatic boycott of Israel. Pretoria will recall all its diplomats back from Israel. The government says it is concerned about the killing of civilians in Gaza. A radio journalist was shot dead during a live broadcast in the Philippines. He was live streaming on Facebook when a gunman entered his recording booth and shot him. Philippine President Marcos Jr. has strongly condemned the killing. China accuses Canada of quote-unquote malicious and provocative actions in the South China Sea. This is after Canada blamed Chinese fighter jets for endangering a helicopter twice. Beijing hit back, saying Ottawa jeopardized its sovereignty. And for the first time in the history of international cricket, a batter has been timed out. Rules say a batter should be at the crease within 2 minutes of a dismissal. Sri Lankan all-rounder Angelo Matthews missed the deadline, so the umpires ruled him out. The global economy is on life support. It's been one assault after the other. First, the Wuhan virus pandemic, then the Russia-Ukraine war, and now the Israel-Hamas war. So people are asking the obvious question: is a recession imminent? According to Wall Street giants, it is. They say a recession is coming. Let's look at two names, two of the biggest names. One is Larry Fink. He heads the world's largest asset management firm, BlackRock. He says the probability of recession is growing. And why is that? Let me quote his statement. Rising fear creates a withdrawal from consumption or spending more, so fear creates recessions in the long run, which makes sense. When do people make big investments of purchases? When they feel secure, when they feel things are looking up. But a war is the opposite. It is filled with uncertainty or worse. And it's not just BlackRock. Another Wall Street giant is saying the same thing. Jamie Dimon. He heads America's largest bank, JP Morgan, and he says things are scary and unpredictable, arguably the worst since 1938. That's when the World War II was about to break out then, 1938. Now, both these analyses have one thing in common. They're based on geopolitics, on war and conflict. Right now, there are 32 live war zones in the world, 32 zones. Could be civil wars, could be drug insurgencies, or maybe ethnic fighting. All of them are destroying lives and property. But not all wars are the same. Some have a bigger impact on the world. I know it sounds unfair, but that's the harsh reality of our world. Russia, Ukraine, and Israel-Hamas are two such wars. The fighting is local, but their impact is global. And I'll tell you why. Ukraine and Russia are major food producers. In addition, Russia also produces energy. These are two key commodities for the global economy, food and fuel. And because of the war, both are more expensive. Same with Israel and Gaza. Neither side produces oil. But both are located close to oil-producing nations like Saudi Arabia and Iraq. And the result is this. Oil prices have crossed $85 per barrel. You and I are paying more at the petrol pump. That means more inflation, less savings, less investments, and of course, less growth. Let's look at where major economies stand today. Starting with the United Kingdom, Bloomberg says the UK is already in recession. The UK's GDP shrank by 0.5% in the June quarter. Data for the September quarter will be published this week, and experts say it will be another contraction, maybe around 0.1%. So technically, that's a recession. If your GDP shrinks in 2 consecutive quarters, it means you are in recession. The UK could already be there. Same with the Eurozone. It's a bloc of 20 European countries. All of them use the euro. In the September quarter, Eurozone's GDP fell by 0.1%. And this quarter is off to a bad start. What about the United States? Same story. Their latest jobs report is out. America's unemployment is 3.9%. In April this year, it was 3.4%. So the US job market is getting worse. And this is another indicator of recession. Like GDP, unemployment also tells a story. And right now, it's not telling a good story. Over in China, things are worse. Their foreign investment data has been published. For the first time, it is negative, meaning foreign investors pulled out more money than they invested in China, around $12 billion more. What does all of this tell you if you connect the dots? It tells you that we are entering a precarious period. If these wars drag on, there is a real threat of recession, a global meltdown. And do you know the worst part? It's all perfectly avoidable. In the last century, world leaders talked about just wars. Wars that were meant for global good, like the Second World War or the Bangladesh Liberation War. Yes, they affected the global economy, but the consensus is that these wars had to be fought. Not the ones we are fighting right now, though. Russia's invasion of Ukraine is not for the greater good, nor is Israel's demolition of Gaza. These are strategic and political wars. They can be resolved at the table. Just think about it. Russia wanted Ukraine to not join the NATO. That's not a humanitarian urgency. That's a political objective. Instead of talking it out, they decided to fight. Today is day 621 of that war. The Russia-Ukraine war, 621 days. Same with Israel and Palestine. At the root of that conflict is a political issue, that of the two-state solution. And you cannot resolve that with force. Hamas thought they could on October 7th. And now Israel is responding in kind. And this is a dangerous trend because wars are supposed to be the last resort, not the first response. So if you normalize conflict, it will spread.
שיוציאו את זה בכלל מהלקסיקון.
Day 31 of the Israel-Hamas war. Yes, it's been a month and it's only getting worse. From bad to worse, Israel is gearing up for a bigger fight. Last week, they surrounded Gaza City, the stronghold of Hamas, the center for their military operations. That's Gaza City for you. And now the Israeli Defense Force, or IDF, is preparing for a major assault. In 48 hours, they could enter Gaza City. Communication lines are already down, and the airstrikes are very much on, only more intense. Journalists on the ground say the explosions are getting louder and deadlier. Meanwhile, the IDF has released a video of their ground operations. It reveals a network of Hamas tunnels. Do you know where these tunnels were? Under a hospital. To call this operation complex would be an understatement. Hamas is hiding in civilian locations. They have assets in schools, hospitals, offices and homes. They have turned everything in Gaza into a military target. And that's the reason everything is coming under attack. Israel is carrying out blanket strikes. They have one goal, to destroy Hamas. And they claim to be making progress. The IDF says it has, quote unquote, cut Gaza into two, North and South Gaza. But all of this comes with significant collateral damage. More than 10,000 civilian deaths. It's appalling. So pressure is mounting on Prime Minister Netanyahu. His biggest ally, the US, is demanding a pause in the fighting. They want to rescue civilians. They want to send humanitarian aid into Gaza.
It's important that the pause advance a number of things. One of them is hostages. We are intensely focused, the United States, Israel, every other country that has one of its citizens being held hostage by Hamas, to bring them home.
So far, Prime Minister Netanyahu has resisted these calls, so the US is trying a different tactic. It is recruiting Israel's neighbors and mounting pressure, a pressure campaign of sorts. The US Secretary of State is visiting the region, that's Antony Blinken. He's on a diplomatic shuttle. He visited Israel on Friday, met Netanyahu, called for a pause, but failed to move the needle.
There will be no ceasefire without the return of our hostages. We say this to both our enemies and our friends.
From Israel, Antony Blinken went to Jordan, then to Turkey and Iraq, plus a surprise pit stop in the West Bank. So Blinken is speaking to all parties, trying to forge regional consensus with two goals in mind. One, contain the damage for Palestinians, and two, shape the political future of Gaza. Both easier said than done, especially when Blinken himself is being called a murderer. When he landed in Ramallah in the West Bank, he was met with protests. Locals blamed him for the bloodshed in Gaza. One of the protesters was carrying a banner. It had Blinken's photograph, and the caption said, "Blinken, there's blood on your hands." Although his president believes he's making progress.
Mr. President, any progress on the humanitarian pause? Yes.
Well, if there is progress, the world is yet to see the proof of it. Blinken's second priority is shaping the political future of Gaza. If Hamas is destroyed, who will control the Gaza Strip? And you do need someone in control, because the last thing you want is a political vacuum after a war. It breeds more instability, more violence. So Blinken wants the Palestinian Authority to step up. He spoke to Mahmoud Abbas, the president of the Palestinian Authority, or the PA. Quick background, there was a time when the PA controlled the Gaza Strip too. But in 2007, Hamas expelled them. Now the US is proposing a comeback. But will Abbas play ball? Right now he seems hesitant. Reports say he wants what's being called a comprehensive solution, one that settles the question of Palestine. But Israel is not ready for that conversation, not after the October 7th attack. Plus, Abbas has few takers even at home. You see, this man is 87 years old. The last election he won was in the year 2006. So he lacks credibility even among Palestinians. And that makes Abbas a hard sell. So there are no good options, really. Meanwhile, protests in support of Palestine are becoming bigger, even turning violent in some places. Like in Turkey, a large crowd assembled in Adana. It's a city in southern Turkey with an American base. Protesters here tried to storm the US base. These were scenes from yesterday. Today, Blinken was in Ankara. Pro-Palestinian groups decided to make a statement. They organized an anti-US rally. They showed up with their hands red, painted red, and they called Blinken a murderer.
Ölenlere baktığımızda Murderer Blinken, get out of Turkey.
Asker.
It's not just American politicians. American assets are on target too, including American ships. Here's what happened 3 days back. A protest in California at the port of Oakland. It got out of hand. Protesters targeted a cargo ship. They said it was taking weapons to Israel. So they tried to get on board and stop it from leaving.
Joe Biden, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide. Joe Biden, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide. Joe Biden, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide. Joe Biden, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide. Netanyahu, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide.
Over the weekend, a large crowd gathered outside the White House too. They demanded a ceasefire. There were protests in New York too, and Germany's capital Berlin, where more than 6,000 people attended a pro-Palestine rally. And videos like these are coming in from across the world, from Canada's Ottawa to Indonesia's Jakarta, also Chile and Venezuela. There is anger across the world over the killing of civilians in Gaza. Now, one thing is clear though, it's advantage Israel in this war, that too by a long margin. But in the Ukraine war, things are not so clear. It's been a battle of attrition this year, long and draining fights, plenty of casualties, but frankly, nothing to show for it. Neither side has made significant territorial gains. Ukraine's top general admitted this. He said the war had reached a stalemate, but his president does not think so. Zelensky says things are difficult, but not a stalemate. Listen to this.
I believe that today, indeed, the situation is difficult. I don't think that this is a stalemate. It's a check on the part of the Russian army, but before that, we did a lot. We had done a lot. We were in a difficult situation.
Now that's a problem. It wasn't some random officer who said that the war was at a stalemate. It was Ukraine's commander-in-chief, their top general. So Zelensky has some explaining to do here. Is there a rift between the civilian and the military leadership? Does the military think the war is unwinnable? Or has fatigue set in? Either way, it's not a good look for Ukraine. Meanwhile, Russia is stepping things up. On Sunday night, they hit the port city of Odessa. Around 8 people were injured. The city's main museum was also damaged. Today, a village near Zaporizhia was targeted. Ukrainian soldiers had gathered for a medal ceremony there. That's when a Russian missile is said to have hit. At least 20 soldiers were killed. Moscow has also tested an intercontinental ballistic missile. It's called Bulava. The missile was fired from a nuclear submarine in the White Sea. Last week, Putin pulled out of a nuclear testing treaty. Days later, a ballistic missile is tested. So what is Putin's strategy here? In the last few weeks, Russia has launched more and more attacks, especially after the Israel-Hamas war. The world is focused on West Asia, so Russia is trying to fly below the radar to push Kiev before winter sets in. It's a strategy Zelensky is onto.
That now, when, of course, Russia understands that now, when focus from Ukraine taking off, and when this focus to the Middle East, and when they try to divide the world in this crisis, Israel-Palestine crisis, and of course, Russia is very happy with this war. They don't count how many children were killed there.
He knows it, but he can't do anything about it. Zelensky's support in Washington is drying up. Joe Biden has asked the U.S. Congress for military aid, around $60 billion for Ukraine, around $14 billion for Israel. The Congress said, no deal. They approved funds only for Israel, not for Ukraine. And this is a big problem for Zelensky. Without American support, he cannot sustain this war. Just look at these numbers. Total U.S. aid to Ukraine is $75 billion. That's military plus humanitarian, $75 billion. At number 2 is Germany. Their total aid to Ukraine is $24 billion. At number 3 is the UK, $15 billion. At number 4 is Norway, around $9 billion. All of them pale in comparison to the United States, $75 billion. So US support is key for this war. And right now, that support is shaky. Polls show American support for Ukraine is eroding. Many of them want to shut the funding tap. And leading that movement is Donald Trump. His campaign is gathering momentum. New polls show him leading Biden in 5 swing states. So what does Zelensky do? He invites Donald Trump to Ukraine. He wants the former president to see the on-ground situation. Wonder how that'll play out with Joe Biden. Either way, it's a key moment in this war. If the US walks away, other allies will have to step up. The question is, are they up to it? This weekend, EU President Ursula von der Leyen visited Kiev again. She was on a review tour. Ukraine had applied to join the EU last year, but before that, there is a checklist, a list of things that Ukraine must get done, like cracking down on corruption or legal reforms. The EU president came to review the progress made, and she says she's happy with it.
I want to tell you how impressed we are by the reforms you've made in the midst of a war. You should never forget you are fighting an existential war, and at the same time you're deeply reforming your country. You have reached many milestones, reforming your justice system, curbing the oligarchs' grip, tackling money laundering, and much more.
These things take a lot of time, sometimes years. But in Ukraine's case, things have been sped up. A report is due on Wednesday. It will detail the progress made by Ukraine. If European leaders are happy, things will move on to the next step, formal negotiations. But Kiev says not so fast. Their deputy prime minister wants to complete all the reform. She says Ukraine does not need sympathy votes. It wants to earn its place in Brussels. And how long will that take? Around 2 years. The decision is now up to European leaders. They couldn't care less about EU expansion until last year, but now it's all they can talk about. Now let's talk about two frenemies trying to patch up. China and Australia, at odds for many years now, and figuring out a way to live with each other. It's a complicated relationship. China tried to interfere in Australian elections. Apparently, they also tried to install a spy in the Australian parliament. There were charges of large-scale espionage. Then came the Wuhan virus. Australia was the first to demand answers. It wanted an international probe into the origins of the virus. Beijing was mighty upset. It struck back where it hurt Australia the most, a trade war. It looked like the relationship had collapsed. But last year, Australia got a new prime minister. His mission was to mend what was broken, and he is at it. His name is Anthony Albanese. He's in China as we speak, that too on a state visit. It doesn't get bigger than this. Today, he met Xi Jinping. They agreed to bury the hatchet. Listen in.
I believe that we can all benefit from the greater understanding that comes from high-level dialogue and people-to-people links, and that a strong relationship between our two countries will be beneficial into the future. Where differences arise, it's important that we have communication. From communication comes understanding.
Albanese is trying to turn over a page. He's the first Australian Prime Minister to visit China in 7 years, and he couldn't have chosen a better time. It's their 50th anniversary. China and Australia, they established ties 50 years ago. The brain behind that was Gough Whitlam, the then Prime Minister of Australia. He normalized the relationship. He paid a visit to China, the first Australian leader to do so. Now, Albanese is attempting a repeat. His visit coincides with the anniversary of Whitlam's visit. And it did not escape the notice of Xi Jinping. He made a mention of it, and he hailed the rapprochement.
And now we are embracing a new 50 years in China-Australia relations. Your visit this time is highly significant as it builds on the past and ushers in the future. Now, the China-Australia relationship has embarked on the right path of improvement and development. I am heartened to see that.
China and Australia are on the right path. That's the message from Xi Jinping. He has good reasons to be pleased. Before Albanese landed in China, they made good progress. Australia had ended some anti-dumping tariffs on China. Beijing had promised to go easy on Australian wines. China also released Cheng Lei, an Australian journalist who had spent the last 3 years in Chinese detention. These measures paved the way for a truce. And it's a truce that both sides need. When China slapped sanctions on Australia, its key exports were hit. Barley, beef, wine, coal, timber and lobster. All of it was hit. Australia suffered serious losses, around $20 billion. Canberra wants to resume this trade. And what's in it for Beijing? Well, China is after Australia's natural resources, stuff like coal and LNG, liquefied natural gas, LNG. China is an energy-hungry nation. It needs coal to power its factories, also to make steel. In 2021 and 2022, Australia's coal sales to China stopped completely. Now, this supply is being resumed. Every month, on average, China buys $1 billion worth of Australian coal. It also buys Australian oil. In the first 6 months of 2023, China spent $860 million on this supply, which is why this truce is important. Australia gets back an important export market and China gets another source of energy. It looks like a win-win, but it comes at a cost. China is also expanding its footprint in Australia's backyard. I'm talking about the Solomon Islands. It used to fall in Australia's sphere of influence. But now China is making rapid inroads. Prime Minister Manasseh Sogavare of the Solomon Islands is being seen as a rebel. This week, leaders from the Pacific Islands are meeting, but Sogavare has decided to skip this meeting. He is sending his foreign minister instead. Sogavare is leaning towards China, and visibly so. His country will soon host the Pacific Games. 5,000 athletes from the region will take part, and guess who Sogavare has called in for security? The Chinese. Last week, there was an announcement. Sogavare said China will send its police forces. A liaison team from Beijing will arrive soon. It will help the local police to maintain law and order. China is also donating policing equipment like metal detectors and drones for this event. Australia has not been sidelined completely, though. It is providing security for the Games too. But this invitation to the Chinese police will unsettle Canberra. We'll have to see how Albanese deals with this. He may have been successful in resetting ties with China, but China's Pacific Games will test the resilience of this reset. They say seeing is believing, but that may not be the case anymore. I'll tell you why I say this. In fact, I'll show you why I say this. Look at this video.
Hi. Didn't want to miss this elevator.
Damn.
Hi. Didn't want to miss this elevator.
Damn.
Who did you see here? Actor Rashmika Mandanna, except it was not her. This was a deep fake. Now let me show you the real video.
Hi. Didn't want to miss this elevator.
Damn, girl.
Hi. Didn't want to miss this elevator.
That's Zara Patel. She's a British Indian influencer. She shared this video last month. Now it has gone viral, but with a small change. Instead of Zara Patel's face, it was Rashmika Mandanna, a simple face swap. If you look at this video very carefully, you may even spot the morphing. It's evident in the first few seconds of the video. But that's not the point we're trying to make tonight. We're talking about a famous Indian actor whose face was morphed on someone else's body and shared widely on the internet, and no one could do a thing about it. In fact, Rashmika Mandanna has spoken about this. Let me quote from what she said. Something like this is honestly extremely scary, not only for me, but also for each one of us who today is vulnerable to so much harm because of how technology is being misused. Superstar Amitabh Bachchan also posted about it. He called for legal action. India's IT Minister Rajiv Chandrasekhar also commented on this. He called for strict action by social media platforms. So a lot of concern, a lot of statements, and many calls for action. But do we have legal recourse for something like this? Do we have a law that can punish this? Before we answer the question, let's go back to the video. It's called a deep fake. The deep here stands for deep learning, and the fake just means fake. Hence, deep fake. It's a form of artificial intelligence that makes false images of videos. You can morph one person's face on the body of another. You can also clone their voices. You can turn people into whatever you like. All it takes is this: a software that you can download off the internet, and pictures of the person you want to target. That's it. That's all you need. You can create your own personal deep fake in just minutes. It may sound like fun, but it's not anymore. It's scary. Deep fakes are the 21st century version of Photoshop. They're becoming more sophisticated with time. You may have heard about the dark side of the internet. Well, this is where it begins. Deep fakes started as simple face swaps. Now they've become tools for pornography or worse. More than 90% of deepfake videos are pornographic. In 2019, 15,000 deepfake videos were found online. Out of these, 96% were adult content. 99% were faces of female celebrities mapped on porn stars. It's a nightmare. Let me go back to actor Rashmika Mandana's post. She said, and I'm quoting again, "Today as a woman and as an actor, I'm thankful for my family, friends and well-wishers who are my protection and support system. But if this happened to me when I was in school or college, I genuinely can't imagine how could I ever tackle this." Absolutely on point. She may have the power and reach to deal with this, but not everyone does. Imagine this happening to a teenager. In fact, why imagine? It's already happened. It happened in Spain. AI-generated nude photos of teens shocked the country. Their faces and bodies were digitally stolen. These young women were stripped of their agency. What do you do when something like this happens? Well, some countries have laws, like South Korea. In South Korea, it is illegal to distribute deep fakes. You could face up to 5 years in jail. The European Union also has cracked down on deep fakes. It imposes hefty fines for deep fake providers. But in India, there is no such law. We have no specific law that addresses the issue of deep fakes. But some other provisions can be applied in cases like these, like Section 66E of the IT Act of 2000. It deals with capturing and publishing a person's images on mass media, thus violating their privacy. This offence is punishable. If found guilty, you can be imprisoned for 3 years. There are also rules for social media platforms. If you report it, they must take it down within 36 hours. So there are laws. Some of them are even effective, but they're not enough. Even if you do report a video, 36 hours is a very long time in this day and age. The damage is already done by then. It's too late for comprehensive action. So while technology is running ahead, laws are lagging behind. We need to change this. Speaking about seeing and believing things, it's a bit hard here in northern India. Let me show you a video. Don't worry, your video quality has not suddenly dropped. This is what India's capital looks like, shrouded in thick smog. In fact, it's the same story across northern India, especially here in the national capital region. The air quality index in Delhi was at 429 this afternoon. Now, to give you some context, the recommended level is between 0 and 50. Anything above 400 is severe, and above 500 is severe plus. Delhi did reach that level on Friday. The AQI reading topped 500 in some parts of the city, meaning it was many times the recommended level. So what's the government doing about this? Today, the Delhi government announced stricter curbs. Two things stand out. Number one, no physical classes for students. Only classes 10 and 12 are allowed to attend school. And even that is a choice. Schools can conduct online classes if they wish. Number two, the odd-even scheme. On odd dates, only vehicles with numbers ending in odd numbers can ply. Suppose the last digit of your registration number is odd, say 1 or 3 or 5, then you can use that vehicle only on odd dates, like the 11th or the 13th or the 15th. Likewise for even numbers. This system will remain in place from the 13th to the 20th of November, and the hope is that things will clear out by then. But what if it doesn't? After all, the smog is not an anomaly. It's a fact of life in New Delhi, one that is putting all of us in danger. Even international athletes are unable to cope. Delhi is hosting a World Cup match today, Sri Lanka versus Bangladesh. Fans turned up to the stadium in masks, and yesterday it was worse. Bangladesh had a training session at the stadium. Only 8 of their players turned up. What about the rest? Well, they decided to skip. Apparently, they were asthmatic. And those who did come wore face masks. Imagine that, wearing an N95 mask and playing cricket. It's a matter of shame for the city and the government. India's cricket board has taken note of it. They've decided to stop the fireworks display after every match. Not everywhere though, only in New Delhi and Mumbai. I guess pollution elsewhere is not so important. Today's match is the last one in Delhi, but Mumbai has 3 more to go, one of them being the semi-final. Many players have criticized the air quality in Mumbai. England's Joe Root was one of them. He said it was like eating air. Indian captain Rohit Sharma also raised the issue. He said the situation was not ideal. He also said the future generation should be able to live without fear. I hope our leaders are listening. Because as citizens, we can only do so much. We don't control policy. We don't run the government. That is your job. And right now, you're not doing it well. Everyone knows why the situation is so bad. We hear it every winter. Emissions are rising, climate change is happening, and of course, the biggest factor, stubble burning in the state of Punjab. Farm fires are up 740% in the last few days. More than 1,000 were recorded in a single day. What has the government done to stop this? The farmers say they don't want to burn the stubble, but the problem is they have no option.
Farmers don't want to burn the stubble, but they are compelled to do so. Stubble burning also damages our fields by some percentage, but the farmers don't want to burn it. It is more efficient to bury the stubble in the field. It makes the field more fertile, but there are no such instruments to bury them, and small farmers cannot afford it. So they burn it.
Do you know what this is? Criminal negligence. One study says living in Delhi will cut your lifespan, that too by 12 years. So to sum it up, we know what the problem is. We know where the problem is. We have the money to solve it. We also know that the problem is getting worse. Yet what do the politicians do? Trade blame and announce half measures. To the north now, where India's neighbour Nepal is reeling under earthquakes. The first one came on Friday. It measured 6.4 on the Richter scale. It struck western Nepal, killing scores of people and leaving many more homeless. Hundreds of houses have collapsed. Many are sleeping out in the bitter mountain cold now. And the nightmare is not over yet. Aftershocks have been rocking the nation. We saw a big one today. It measured 5.6 on the Richter scale. This might not be the first time you've heard about earthquakes in Nepal. It has seen 7 deadly quakes in the last 8 years. The most devastating one in recent memory came in 2015. That killed over 9,000 people. Pakistan and Afghanistan too see frequent earthquakes. You may wonder why that is. Here's a report.
This is the state of Western Nepal right now. Dozens dead, hundreds of homes in ruin, thousands sleeping in the open. This is the aftermath of Friday's earthquake.
Our village has been totally destroyed. Our situation is so bad that we don't have anything left to eat. Whatever food we had is buried underneath the rubble of a fallen house. Someone gave us some rice, a little oil and some salt. Out of that we made a stew last night and ate that. I'm injured too, and others in our family also have some injuries.
Many Nepali people are still waiting for help. Nepal's government is trying to reach all the affected areas, but many are remote villages, often with just one road to connect them to the outside world. The earthquake took place in Nepal's Jajarkot district. It's in western Nepal, about 400 kilometers away from the capital, Kathmandu. The area is mountainous and sparsely populated, filled with hard-to-reach villages. Landslides caused by Friday's earthquakes have isolated many of these settlements, forcing Nepal to rely on helicopters to reach them. The lack of connectivity may cause the death toll to rise in the days to come. At present, it stands at about 150. Over 180 people are injured, but if rescue work keeps getting delayed, these numbers will rise. It will also get worse if Nepal keeps experiencing earthquake aftershocks, like the one it felt today. Today's aftershock took place at about 4:30 p.m. local time. It measured at 5.6 magnitude on the Richter scale. The tremors could be felt in India's capital, New Delhi, which is about 800 kilometers away from the epicenter of the recent earthquakes. This means people in Nepal experienced another devastating blow. Nepal is no stranger to earthquakes. The Himalayas are a seismically active zone. The same geographic process that caused the mountains to form also leads to earthquakes. A quick geography lesson. The earth has several layers, the topmost being the crust. The land we stand on is part of this layer, the crust. Now this layer is like a cracked eggshell, and the pieces of the shell float on a larger layer of molten rock. The shell-like pieces are known as tectonic plates. The liquid layer is called the mantle. Now the mantle is liquid. It flows and moves about like an ocean with its currents. And this causes the shell-like tectonic plates to get swept along. And sometimes these plates end up colliding because of the mantle's flow. The collision pushes the plates against each other, and they have nowhere to go but up, which is how you get mountains. It's how the Himalayas were formed, and this process is still ongoing. Every year the mountain range grows because of the ongoing collision, but that process also generates tremendous pressure. While the crust and plates are a very small part of the earth overall, they are still giant floating chunks of rocks that weigh millions of tons. So of course, pressure is generated, and this eventually releases in the form of earthquakes. This is why Himalayan countries like Nepal experience destructive earthquakes every so often. Nepal has seen 7 deadly earthquakes in the last 8 years. 3 earthquakes have led to deaths this year alone. This includes Friday's tremor. The deadliest quake in recent years took place in April 2015. That quake and an aftershock a few weeks later left over 9,000 people dead, and it dealt a blow to Nepal's economy. Friday's earthquake may not have the same impact, but it's just as devastating for those caught in the epicenter.
Last Thursday, a European Union conference was held. It took place in Berlin. Foreign ministers had gathered there. They were in front of international media waiting for a group picture, greeting each other, and then this happened. That's Croatian Foreign Minister Gordon Grlić Radman. He makes an attempt to greet his German counterpart, Annalena Baerbock. He first reaches out to shake her hand, then leans forward to plant a kiss. Baerbock is seen swiftly turning her cheek, which is met with the Croatian minister's klutzy kiss. Baerbock is clearly awkward. She laughs it off, but the internet is not laughing. It is angry. This video has gone viral. The Croatian minister is being hammered, especially because the anger is still raw, thanks to this man, Luis Rubiales. In August, he forcibly kissed footballer Jenny Hermoso. This was at the Women's World Cup final. He was the Spanish football chief. After the kiss, he was forced to resign and banned from all football-related activities for 3 years. Now, Gerlich Radman is courting a kiss controversy. German newspapers are calling it a kiss attack. Women's rights activists are castigating the Croatian minister, calling the kiss, quote-unquote, extremely inappropriate. A former Croatian Prime Minister has also reacted. She equated forced kissing with violence, and many would agree with that sentiment. But the Croatian Foreign Minister does not. He has offered a half apology. Let me quote from what he said. "We ministers always greet each other cordially. If someone saw something bad in that, then apologies to whoever took it that way." It does not sound like sorry at all. Why was this cordiality only extended to the woman beside him? You could say this is a social custom in some cultures and not the first time it's been done. This is from 2010, former French President Nicolas Sarkozy and former US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Then in 2012, leaders of US and Germany, Barack Obama and Angela Merkel. Even in the case of female Muppets, like here with former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg, Miss Piggy gets a kiss. Kermit the Frog does not. Barring the Muppet, in these instances, maybe the kiss was consensual. But that's not always the case, and that's where the problem occurs. Politicians have a responsibility of setting an example for the masses. So they may be planting so-called friendly kisses, but this only gives more power to a sexist anachronism, making it okay to simply walk up to a woman and kiss her, and paving the way for things like this.
What the
That's a New York City councilwoman in the middle of a TV interview when a stranger simply kissed her and walked off. No consent was asked, no apology offered. The woman was visibly outraged. This is a clear case of harassment. Workplace social kissing may not be as brazen, but it does set a precedent. That consent is not required. In 2018, a female mayor of a French town spoke against this. She made waves. She fired an email to 73 municipal councillors, and this is what she told them. "From now on, I would prefer to shake hands like men do." And that's exactly our point. Maybe the Croatian minister is purely following certain greeting norms, but the problem is workplace social kissing is a mysterious form of interaction, not so easy to pass, and certainly not for everyone. So for all the so-called powerful men out there, if you're still wondering whether to kiss or not to kiss, here's a golden rule. If you wouldn't kiss your male colleague, don't kiss your female colleague either. Stick to handshakes and high fives. It's not that complicated. There is a fine line between cordial and crass. Try not to cross it. Now let's move from criminal behavior to a sensational crime, the attempted jailbreak of an imprisoned dictator or an attempted kidnapping, depending on who you ask. This incident took place in the West African nation of Guinea. The target was the former president, Captain Moussa Dadis Camara. Camara has been in a Guinean prison for about a year now. He's awaiting trial for mass murder and crimes against humanity, the usual dictator activities. But someone wanted him out of prison. Heavily armed gunmen stormed the jail where he was being held. This was on Saturday morning. They succeeded in getting him out, but it wasn't to last. Guinea launched a manhunt to get the former dictator back, and he was captured in a few hours. Here's how it played out.
This is Captain Moussa Dadis Camara. He ruled the West African nation of Guinea between December 2008 and January 2010. And he's accused of committing mass murder and crimes against humanity during his time in power. Camara has been in prison for about a year now. He's awaiting trial for his alleged crimes. But it seems someone got impatient. On Friday night, unknown gunmen tried to break Camara out of prison. Several attackers besieged the prison where he was being held, and after a few hours, they succeeded in freeing him and 3 others.
Dans la nuit du vendredi 3 au samedi.
On the night of Friday the 3rd of November to Saturday 4th November 2023, armed individuals caused a public disturbance by targeting Conakry's central prison and provoked the escape of certain detainees linked to the painful events of 20th September 2009.
4 imprisoned members of Guinea's military were freed, Camara and 3 others. They were all involved in one of the worst massacres during Camara's reign. The murder of at least 150 people on September 28, 2009. Camara had come to power in a coup, and he promptly suspended Guinea's constitution and banned political parties. But on September 28, 2009, an opposition rally took place. Thousands gathered to protest against military rule. They had convened at a stadium in Guinea's capital, Conakry. About 50,000 protesters. What followed was a barbaric crackdown. Troops led by Camara's presidential guard entered the stadium. They fired point blank at the unarmed protesters. They didn't just shoot. People were stabbed and impaled with bayonets. Hundreds of women were raped. Men were tortured. People who managed to flee the stadium were hunted down. Hundreds of survivors were then imprisoned without trial. It was a brutal crime against humanity, allegedly overseen by the dictator Moussa Dadis Camara. This is one of the many things he's awaiting trial for. But he nearly escaped on Saturday. The gunmen managed to get him out, but the next part was the difficult one. Their escape routes were blocked off. Guinea's current rulers shut routes in and out of the capital. Police and the military began a manhunt, and they succeeded in recapturing the former dictator within a few hours.
Les forces de défense et de sécurité ont mis fin à la cavale de...
The defense and security forces have put an end to the escape of Captain Moussa Dadis Camara, Colonel Moussa Tegboro Camara, and Colonel Blaise Goumou. All are safe and sound and have been returned to prison in Conakry. I assure you that all security measures have been taken to find the last fugitive, Colonel Claude Peavy.
Guinean authorities want to charge Camara with escaping jail and weapons possession. But the dictator's lawyer has denied these accusations. The lawyer claimed Camara didn't try and escape, but was abducted. That's the defense they're going with. So far, no details have been revealed about the abductors. Guinea says that Camara is back in the same prison he escaped from and that he's being questioned. But there's no indication that his trial will be sped up in light of this incident, which puts Guinea's quest for justice at risk. Camara had fled Guinea in 2010. This was after an assassination attempt. He was living in exile in the country of Burkina Faso till a year ago, but then he returned to Guinea. This was after another military coup hit the nation. Guinea's new military junta, however, ordered him to stand trial, which gave Guinea's 14-year quest for justice a shot in the arm. But this incident proves that there's no guarantee that Camara will actually pay for his crimes.
And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. In Paris, French Spider-Man scaled a skyscraper calling for peace in Gaza. In Italy, divers have found tens of thousands of ancient coins off the coast of Sardinia. They could be the remains of a shipwreck. And in today's edition of Bizarre Climate Protests, 2 protesters smashed the glass cover of a 17th century painting at London's National Gallery. Finally, we're taking you back in history. On this day in 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected as the 16th President of the United States. Lincoln's victory led to the secession of the southern states, followed by the Civil War in America. It ended in 1865 with the abolition of slavery. We're leaving you on that note. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.